told him it was easy. Ladies and gentlemen, I went and did some homework. It ain't that easy. It is not that easy to pick the top 10. But you know what? I gave it the world. You tell me what you think. Number 10. You know him. You love him. The infamous block got the Detroit Pistons.
Today's his anniversary of his draft.
It is of his draft. Yep. There you go. Shout out to
Perfect.
Tayshaun Prince, drafted in the 2003 draft, I do believe, out of Kentucky. What was his name?
The Palace Prince.
Tubby. What was his coach?
Tubby
name?
Smith.
Tubby. There it is. Tubby
Smith.
Smith was his coach. The block. The block alone is a moment, but he had a Hall of Fame career here with the Detroit Pistons. He wanted to play for some other teams. I think he works in the front office now with the Memphis Grizzlies. Shout out to Tayshaun Prince. Number 9. Cade Cunningham.
Oh.
I'm putting him at number 9 now. You may think he might need to be a little bit higher. That's fine. We'll see what this list entails. Cade Cunningham, number 9. You know the guy. You know what he is. Last year, he finally made his mark as an all-pro NBA member, and he is in line to be one of, if not the face of the NBA. Got to get to the finals first. Got to win one of those, but he's in line, and he can lead as Anson tells us all the time. Number 8.
Here's your first Mavs one.
Dave DeBusschere.
Oh.
Maz, I tricked you with this one. Dave DeBusschere went to the University of Detroit.
Yes,
Mercy
he
got
did.
drafted by the Detroit Pistons. Now, you know his Hall of Fame career with the New York Knickerbockers.
Yes, sir.
But his first team
22.
was the Detroit Pistons.
Played at St. Clair Montefalco.
There
down
you go.
Right on Mack Avenue and Grosse Pointe.
Talk about Dave DeBusschere a little bit. I put,
Oh, my
I put
God.
this black and white picture on here
Boy,
for you.
I love him. Boy, was he a phenomenal two-way player. And boy, was he a great teammate on those 3 Knick teams that went to the finals. They won 2 out of them. Lakers beat them the other time. Dave DeBusschere was the man. Great jump shot, great defense. Him and Walt Frazier suffocated that other team. And the Knicks would not have won without making that trade for him. I think they traded Walt Bellamy for him.
Here's the first curveball for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. It says top 10 Detroit Pistons draft picks.
Right.
Here you go. Coming in at number 7, Allen Houston. I'm going Allen Houston. When you look at the career he had with the New York Knicks, as well as how it started here in Detroit. He and Lindsey Hunter drafted the same year.
Yes,
I believe
sir.
it was 1994.
1A, 1B.
I do remember. No, because Grant Hill was 95, so
93.
96. You said what?
Either
He's
90.
before.
Okay.
They're before, so 94. And
I got
Grant-
here in 93, and I thought they drafted him that next year.
Well,
I could be wrong.
Regardless, Allen Houston, one of the best players in Knicks history. If you look at the totality of the work he did and then started his career here, boy could shoot the ball. University of Tennessee volunteer. Allen Houston's my number 7. What we got for number 6? You guessed it. You got it. Easily could be number 1. I mean, this is the
thrill.
first pair of shoes that I ever did own as a player shoe. It was the Grant Hill. The first one that came out. 1995 was the year. But Grant Hill was the man. NBA Jam, the whole 9 yards. Grant Hill was it. I didn't know I could like a Duke guy until Grant Hill. The first step, he was just electric. And for a Duke guy, he wasn't no punk because he used to punk Alonzo Mourning and he used to punk a lot of other players around the NBA in that East at a time. If he doesn't get hurt, Grant Hill could be number 1 on this
He
list.
was in the conversation with Jordan as the best player in the league.
When
Right
Jordan
before he
was
got
still
hurt.
in the league.
Yep.
It was when Jordan came back out of retirement nonetheless. However, Grant Hill was in that very conversation. Ridiculous. Top 5, and also his wife Tamia, chef's kiss.
Good singer.
100%. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about how she sings "Oh Canada."
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate the clarification.
Top 5. You know, you can't talk about people's wives these
That's
days.
right.
Top
Oh,
5.
That's right.
What are
Especially
we
after
saying?
doing one of these.
Well, the chef's kiss.
I
though,
got
you
you.
know, it speaks to the class
For her voice.
personified. What do you think of the list so far, Maz,
I
Pete,
love it.
Ricky? It's a
I
good list so
absolutely
far.
Love it. I'm waiting on a couple of players, but I know they're coming up.
Okay.
Good stuff. You're getting into my favorites.
Okay,
now,
get
buddy.
into your wheelhouse a little bit. Where you with Anson?
I don't have too many issues.
I think the Daubers got to be coming up.
You got some issues though.
Not really. But just,
All right, you know what?
Some late
Gotta
name
come.
changes.
He probably doesn't like the Dave DeBusschere pick because he was a Knick. Was he
No,
a
because he
peasant?
didn't really do much here.
But it's
So I
but-
get that they were drafted and their full-on career. For me, they needed to impact the Pistons. for me to
Anson,
really
look,
be up there.
everything doesn't have to be about this city. Like what I took from what I wanted to do was we'll do a top 10 Pistons drafts. Allen Houston's one of the best shooting guards of all time. He made his bones here in Detroit, but then he made his dollars there in New York. But still got drafted here. Number 5. You like this guy? He made some bones other places. Does he still count?
I mean,
Exactly. Number
he's
5.
a little low on your list.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Let's
Little
see the
low.
Final Four.
No, he's not.
Should be higher.
The Worm.
Well, this is my list, and I got him on this
Hey.
at this point. Like you said, he could have done more, but he went to the Bulls and won 3. Maybe I'm still holding that against him.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I got a little bit of my
How many
answer.
defensive player of the year did he win here?
2, back to
How many
back,
rebounding titles did he win here?
and he's 5.
And how many championships?
It is what it is.
And the most iconic weirdo to ever put on a uniform.
But he
everyone
not,
across
hold
the
on,
world
hold
knows
on,
Dennis
hold on.
Rodman.
But hear me
Even
out.
in North
See, this is the
Korea.
bullshit I don't like. This is the shit I don't like.
Hey.
You just legitimately said, but they didn't make their bones here. He didn't turn into a weirdo until he left. All the blonde hair, all the
Oh,
coloring,
he was
all the
sitting with a
all
shotgun
the
in
tattoo-
the Palace parking
That doesn't
lot.
make
He
him a
was
weirdo.
That doesn't make him a
Makes
weirdo.
him depressed.
No,
I
that's-
love that he was a
No,
weirdo.
no. Answer, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna disrespect the mental health, the
I'm
space
not
that he was.
disrespecting that. That
Him
was part of his break. Chuck Daly left.
But
He
him
had a
sitting
mental
in the
breakdown.
car with a shotgun, thinking about suicide, is not weirdo. It's borderline mental health.
I get that, bro.
I'm confused.
I'm talking about who he was. He was an iconic
Right.
misanthrope. People couldn't understand him or they loved him. The guy sat there after games and signed every single autograph for an hour
Right.
while the security guards are trying to pull him away. To me, Dennis
But you're
Rodman
switching the
is one of the
conversation.
most iconic players in the history of the NBA.
All I said was you called him a weirdo when you were describing a mental health situation. That's all I said.
Okay, well, we're battling semantics. I think he's one of the most iconic players in NBA history. I think that he's still a little too low on your
Time
list.
out for a second. 7-0 Tigers. 2-run triple
Yeah.
for Zach McKinstry.
How many?
He's
Zach
been
McKinstry
bad. He's
leads the
been-
league in triples. Put him in the All-Star game.
He's
Put
been-
him in the All-Star
He should, be,
game.
he should be an alternate.
He's been killing it. He's definitely been killing it. Number 4,
Oh, another
Bob
Mavs
Lanier.
guy.
The Dauber.
Bob Lanier. What you got? I'll let
St.
you say.
Bonaventure's Bob Lanier. Fabulous career. Fabulous player. Great human. He was the Pistons back in the early 70s. He was.
First of all, he's the Pistons' first Hall of Fame basketball player.
Yep.
100%. He's the first player. When you think about what a representation of the Detroit Pistons, he's the first player post Wayne Pistons. He's the first one to bring that Detroit on his chest. So that's why, in my opinion, he's number 4 on this list. Number 3,
Another Mavs guy.
you know who it is. It's the mayor,
mayor,
Dave
yes.
Bing.
Yep.
Phenomenal. Bob Lanier was amazing, but Dave Bing brought that first flash, that style, that pizzazz, like man's like with Clyde Frazier. That's what you saw in Dave Bing.
Top
He
100
could
player
also,
in the NBA, Dave.
100%. He can also shoot, and he led this team much like he attempted to lead this city. City let him down. He didn't let the city down.
No.
That old English D on the jacket is
That's fire.
crazy. We
He
didn't
was,
That's
bring
fire.
it back.
he was as cool as they come. And one time, I was sitting in his seats at Tiger Stadium. They had to ask me to leave. Of course, I didn't
Why?
belong there, but that's where I wind up picking his freaking seat out of everywhere.
That's funny.
Oh man. Well, you know who number 2 and 1 is.
This
We
is
talked
my
about
guy.
that. This is pretty
This
easy.
is my first NBA jersey, man.
Number 2.
My first one.
Anson, tell us about Joe Dumars.
Oh,
3 championships from McNeese State. 2 as a player, and that very, very important one as a GM. I wish him luck in his new city. I love this. I think that the Palace Guard has to be the top 2.
How? Let me ask you this question. Speaking of that, you talk about Joe Dumars with the New Orleans Pelicans. They now have Jordan Poole on the team with Brandon Ingram on the team with Zion Williamson on the team with. I believe in Joe Dumars. You know, I think Joe gets it, but man, it's not an easy situation.
Well, the thing that Joe brings is culture.
Yeah.
So these guys, the aforementioned players, a lot of them, I don't want to say lack culture.
Yeah, they do. though.
But you know, it's a divisive word there. I want to say they lack the maturity to be
They
on
don't-
a winning team, and I think that Joe can instill that and help grow these guys up quickly.
I think too, like when you're New Orleans Pelicans, they went out and got C.J. McCollum. They tried to bring him in there. They tried to bring him in kind of to be that piece, experienced veteran that does things the exact right way. Very similar to Joe Dumars, if I'm being honest. Not as a player, but in terms of how he carries himself. But he was at a point in his career where he's still trying to find a team to be competitive. He still feel like there's competitive juices. He's not just trying to coach. And I feel like they need those players now to be around them. You need some players that are very confident. Look, I'm not making any All-Star games. I'm not necessarily leading any team, but I can help this team continue a level of professionalism, much like this year with the Pistons. Yeah,
And if you can reach Poole,
he can play.
100%.
He can play. He's got some ways about him, but he can play.
You
Without
got Jake
fur-
Rogers in your.
you
You
said
got
what?
Jake Rogers in your.
Jake's got a hit.
You got an RBI. 8-0.
They're just kicking butt. No, I do not.
Braves on
Got a
fire.
sack
not.
fly.
Okay, it's still RBI.
Yep.
Braves
There
on
you go.
fire.
Number one, without further ado, you know him, you love him. We love him as Zeke. Isaiah
Look up.
Thomas. And also
I
the
don't see
unique
anything.
spelling that is. Zeke is Zeke, man. Like, he's legitimately, in my eyes, the best point guard of all time. I will go down
I love this list.
with my grave saying that if you want to say Magic, I don't have a problem with that. But I just think it's Zeke. He beat Magic head to head, got cheated and still beat Magic. I mean, 27 points, the resiliency, and then the little big man. I think for a lot of people, that phrase nowadays is kind of like, oh, why you say little big man? Why you say little big man? You know, it's 2025, it's PC. But back then, they reveled in that role, the little big man. I'm going to show you guys that we can be just as physical. He was just as scrappy as anybody else. You don't believe me? Ask Bill Laimbeer how his face got like that.
Well, and you look in an era where very few teams were winning at all. You know, you had the 76ers squeezed in there, and then it was basically the Boston and LA show. You've got a team that's, I mean, I guess they made the finals once as the Fort Wayne Pistons, lost to George Mikan and the Minneapolis Lakers, but otherwise the Pistons were mired in obscurity for decades. And you don't bring in a center that changes your team around. You don't bring in, you know, a guy that's heralded and 6'8". You bring in a tiny 6'1" guy who's just a fighter, who takes, you know, IU to a championship. And what he brought here was a tenacity that filtered in through every single player that was traded for, signed, or drafted after him. Joe Dumars isn't on this list if he doesn't play next to Isaiah Thomas. A bunch of these guys wouldn't be on this list if he hadn't brought the winning culture to Detroit. And he refused to accept anything but championship level play. So as the Pistons go, it's because of this man coming here and making us into NBA royalty. I know we only got 3, but we should have 5. 05 and 88 to be quite honest, but he changed the complete perception of the Pistons forever in the NBA landscape.
Ricky, Pete, Maz, anybody I left off this list? Any player that you have liked on here?
Oh my God, I think you hit it out of the park. I'd have to do a deep dive. I don't think you're missing anybody.
Especially with DeBusschere on there.
First round picks we're talking, right?
That was a sneaky one.
How about steals? Ben Wallace, number 1.
So that was like Ben Wallace is the great one that you want to put on every list for Detroit, but
nobody drafted him.
Nobody
drafted him.
Undrafted.
And Mass, to be clear, I like Dave DeBusschere because he's not a peasant. He has a ring.
Oh, it's
Thank
2.
you.
Let me give you a couple real quick,
Okay.
going backwards. I know you guys aren't going to like it, but I truly believe in Jaden Ivey's future here